Developing film at home last year saved me hundreds of dollars. It seems like this big impossible thing to do, but it's actually really easy. I'm gonna show you how I got really good at it on a tight budget. Check it out. You need a specific set of equipment to get started. This is my setup. The first thing you'll need is a developing tank. Film spools, color film development chemicals. C41 chemicals is what we'll be using today. Your color film will say on the side what type of chemicals it needs to be developed in. C41 is the most common. Plastic chemical storage bottles. Start with 3, 1 for each of the different chemicals you'll need. A beaker, a mixing stirrer, a thermometer, a 35mm cassette opener, a bucket for warming the water, a sous vide machine. This one saved me a ton of money. A film squeegee, tape, and a marker for labeling the bottles, film drying clip sets, and a hanging rod to hang the film to dry. Mine fits perfectly on any door, and it allows me to hang the film anywhere. And last but not least, the coolest piece, a film changing bag. All of this equipment is listed and linked below. I've included the exact links to my equipment, which should end up saving you money. I've also included the links to the equipment that the film development companies would recommend, and quite frankly, that's gonna be pretty expensive. In just developing only 100 rolls, I've actually learned quite a bit. But I think the main thing that I've learned is that you have quite a bit of room to miss. You just gotta follow the instructions. Let me show you.
Let's start with mixing our first chemical, the color developer.
First up is water. The first chemical is color developer part A. You can pour the entire bottle in. Stir. Next up, color developer part B. Stir. Last is color developer part C. And stir again. You're all set. Put the cap back on. Label your bottle with tape. One on the front that says developer, the next on the cap with a D for developer, and lastly, a label to keep track of how many rolls you have developed with that chemical. Make sure you are labeling the bottle and the cap, and do not mix up the caps at all. Just 1 drop of Blix in the color developer can kill the color developer and waste the entire chemical. Next up is the Blix. Pour the water in, then Blix part A, stir. Next, Blix part B, stir. Lastly, Blix part C, and stir again. Put the cap back on and set aside. Last up is the stabilizer. The stabilizer is what you will use to prevent your film from developing fungus over time if you live in a warm or particularly humid environment. Even if you don't, I still recommend using this chemical. Start with the water, add the stabilizer, stir, put the cap back on, label, and you're set.
Fill your water bucket up about halfway. It doesn't need to be warm because we'll do that with a sous vide cooker.
Set the sous vide cooker to 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Setting it to 104 compensates for that temperature fluctuation when you pull it out of the water and actually start developing the film. At box speed, the color film developer needs to be at 102 degrees Fahrenheit. Now it's time to get the film into the developing tank. What you'll need: a developing tank, your film spool, if you're doing 35mm film, your cassette opener, and lastly, a pair of scissors. Let's place all of this in our changing bag, along with, the most important thing, the film itself. All right, get situated. Once you're in the bag,
If you're developing 35mm, pop the top off the film canister, pull the film out, cut the tongue off of the film, and then load onto the spool, just like this. If you're doing medium format film, all you have to do is unravel it. Once you get to the end of the film, there's a piece of tape holding it to the light shield. Carefully peel that tape off and load onto the film spool just like this.
let's start developing. First up, color developer. Close it up nice and tight. Your first few rolls in new color developer, you should develop at 3 minutes and 30 seconds. Agitate for the first 10 seconds, just like this, and then every 30 seconds after that until the timer goes off. Slowly pour the chemicals back into the bottle. Next up is the Blix. Close the tank, and this you'll develop at 8 minutes. Agitate for the first 10 seconds, and then agitate every 30 seconds after that until the timer goes off. Once you get to 8 minutes, pour the Blix back into the bottle. Do it in a sink in case you spill a little bit, like I just did. Fill it with water to the top and dump out at least 5 times. Last up is the stabilizer. This you'll only do for 1 minute. Agitate for the first 10 seconds. Once the timer's up, pour the stabilizer back into the bottle. Once again, rinse a couple times with water and empty the tank. Put a very small amount of photo flow into the developing tank. Run underwater just a couple times to clean the film. Now the film is done developing and you're ready to take it out. Carefully grab the end and slowly pull off the spool. Lightly take the squeegee and run the film through it. Then, once you've done that, put on your drying rack. Clip one to the top and one to the bottom. The last step before drying completely is to take a folded paper towel and very gently run it from top to bottom on the film to take off any of the excess water. That's it. With one purchase of chemicals, you can develop 24 rolls of film. It is extremely important to keep track of how many rolls you have developed because you don't want to go over 24 rolls. I used to think that film development was really scary and that I was going to mess up every roll that I developed. But the fact of the matter is that you actually have a lot of room to miss. As long as you follow the instructions and the times, you'll be fine. Pushing and pulling film requires slightly different instructions, but those two are easy to follow. If your equipment is clean and it's up to the standards that it needs to be, your process will be fine. Your window to miss is actually quite a bit larger than you would probably think. The official film companies and accounts make it seem like you need all this fancy equipment to be able to do just a baseline job, but the truth is, like anything in the camera world, you don't need the best equipment to be extremely effective. The last thing I want to comment on, and actually a really important step in everything, is how to dispose of the chemicals when you're done with them. After you finish with your chemicals, don't pour them down the drain. The first one is, I take it to a chemical waste treatment facility. Almost all major US cities have these, so you should have no trouble finding them. If your only option is to throw your chemicals in the garbage, don't just dump them in the garbage. Get kitty litter or something that can soak up chemicals, and once that process is done, place that in a bag, and then you could throw that in the garbage. If any of you have any other insight into how to properly dispose of chemicals, maybe something I didn't mention, leave a comment below. I would love to hear what you guys have to say. Thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next one.